to engage in these sessions in a way that we can deepen our understanding of particularly Mahaprabhu and his pastimes and our opportunity to engage in our own devotional service in the way that he wanted us to, is really the exciting journey. And the opportunity to actually have the discussions around these topics are unusual. We go through so many different classes where we get to hear so many different things, but we often just scratch the surface, and that's where the challenge is. And hopefully these classes give us a lot more deeper understandings of principles of bhakti.
Okay, great. Thank you, Prabhuji. So I'm going to go ahead and start. What I'd like to do is we have a Mangalacharana in every session. And who do you recommend to recite slokas, Chaitanya Prabhu? Are you good for that? Radhisham Prabhu good for that?
I'm not sure. Radhisham Prabhu, how's your recitation of verses?
Well, I'm a starter at this, so it looks like Karuna Prabhu might be better versed with this.
Okay, Karuna Prabhu, why don't you read the Sanskrit, and Chaitanya Prabhu, you'll read the English. And we've got a few verses, and I'd like to try to do this every session. You'll see. I'm going to go ahead and share this on the screen right now.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Chaitanya Prabhu.
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. Offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine.
Offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna on this earth, having taken shelter at His lotus feet.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavati Pashat Deshatarine.
Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Dev and delivering the Western countries, which are full with impersonalism and voidism.
Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakata Mahyam Dadati Swapatantikam.
When will Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet?
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls.
Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapata Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother, Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunath Das and Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka.
Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Govatushe Namaha.
O most beneficent incarnation, you are Krishna himself, appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing the pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you.
Janalam Pidabujau Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya-taksho Vishwambaro Dvijabaro Jugadharmapalo Vande Jagat Priyakarau Karuna Avataro.
I worship their Lordship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, whose long arms extend down to their knees, whose beautiful complexions are radiant, yellow like molten gold, and whose elongated eyes are like red lotuses. They are the topmost Brahmins, the guardians of religious principles of this age, the most munificent benefactors of all living entities, and the most compassionate incarnations of Godhead. They initiated the congregational chanting of the names of Lord Krishna.
He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute.
O my dear Krishna, O ocean of mercy, you are the friend of the distress and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. Offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Taptakanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye.
I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna.
Chirad Atatam Nijagupta Vitam Swaprema Namamritam Atyudharaha Upamaram Bhyastam Aham Prapadye.
The most munificent Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Gauranga Krishna, distributed to everyone, even the lowest of men, his own confidential treasury in the form of the nectar of love of himself and the holy name. This was never given to the people at any time before. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Narpita Charim Chirad Karunayavati Naya Kalo Samarpayatum Unnadojwala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Haripurada Sundara Dhyutikadamba Sandipitaha Sada Hridaya Kandere Spuratuva Sachinandanaha.
May that Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachidevi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. He has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant spiritual knowledge of the mellow taste of his service.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Deva Ratimati Bhave Bhaja Prema Kalpataru Bharadata Shri Vraja Rajanandana Radhika Jivana Dhana Apurupa Eisabha Katha.
O brother, always worship Shri Krishna Chaitanya Dev, who is the great philanthropist, giving away the treasure of the desire to your pure love of Krishna. This Lord Chaitanya is actually Lord Krishna, the Prince of Raj, and the life of Srimati Radharani. The descriptions of him are spiritual sounds. They are not at all material.
Navadvipe Avatari Radha Bhava Angikari Tan Ara Kan
Bhushana Tinavancha Avilasi Sachi Garvi Padakasi Sangilana Parishadagana.
Lord Krishna desired to appear in Navadvip to understand the intense love Srimati Radharani felt for him and accept her golden complexion as his bodily ornament. In order to fulfill these three desires, the Lord appeared in Sachidevi's womb. When the Lord appeared like this in the material world, all his associates followed him and also appeared in the world.
Gurahari Avatari Premier Avadara Kari Sadila Manera Tina Kaja Radhikara Pranapati Kiva Bhavi Kande Niti Iha Bhuji Bhakata Samaja.
The Lord appeared in the golden form of Lord Chaitanya and then preached the message of pure love for Krishna. In this way, he fulfilled three desires in his mind. Only the devotees are able to understand in what a wonderful way Krishna, who is the Lord of Srimati Radharani's life, continued to cry in ecstatic love of God.
Dhamma Adhamma Kichuna Bhachila Jachiya Dileka Kola Kahe Premananda Emana Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jejana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare.
Never discriminating who was a fit candidate, elevated or degraded, the son of Mother Sachi, magnanimously accepts one and all onto his lap in a loving embrace, crying, "Come to my fold, come to my fold." The poet, Premananda Das, begs you all to constantly chant the sweet names of Krishna while holding tightly to that son of Mother Sachi in the innermost core of your heart. Worship Gauranga, speak about Gauranga. Oh, please take to Gauranam. Whoever worships Gauranga is my life and soul.
Okay. Karuna Prabhu, you want to continue again? I'm sorry for jumping in. Go ahead.
Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste.
O Lord Chaitanya Chandra, O Lord whose form is full of blissful pastimes, O Lord whose complexion is as splendid as gold, O Lord who gives in charity the nectar of pure love for Lord Krishna, offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Ilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannataya Te Namaha.
I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Personality Godhead, Sri Jagannath, who resides eternally in Nilachal Dham, along with his personal expansion, Lord Balaram, and his internal potency, Subhadra Devi.
Iman Rasarasarambhi Vamshi Vatatatastitaha Karshan Venu Sunir Gopir Gopinatha Shriyastunaha.
Sri Srila Gopinath, who originated the transcendental mellow of the Rasa dance, stands on the shore in the Vamsivat and attracts the attention of the cowherd damsels with the sounds of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Shati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So I want to thank everybody very much for coming today. Gaura Prabhu is here. All right, that's very good. We're just speaking about you with Chaitanya Prabhu. Nothing bad. But and nice to see Brenda Sundari too after such a time. So we're in Brajabani. Is this our Brajabanita in Brindavan with the cows?
Yes, almost. But I will be without camera because I am still not home.
Nice to see you here. Hare Krishna, Lila Purushottam Prabhu. So what we did, we kind of combined two different groups today, invited devotees from our normal Pariprashna group to take part in this. And this group, and I'm also going to invite everybody here if you want to take part in our Wednesday programs, which at the same time, but it's a different subject matter. It's Prem Bhakti Chandrika of Narottam Das Thakur. Oh, it's 2 hours earlier. That's right. It's 2 hours earlier on Wednesday. Sorry about that. So I'll remind everybody about that again later and also send some link and things too. So just to give a little introduction, we wanted to speak something about Mahaprabhu's bhajan and the gambira. And what is the nature of that bhajan? What is so special about that bhajan? And I'm really excited about it. This is one of my favorite subject matters. I consider that this Mahaprabhu's bhajan pranali in the Gambhira, the Gambhira bhajan pranali, the system of bhajan that was given in the Gambhira, synthesizes everything in our Gaudiya line. And many questions that we may have, basic things even, as it was with some of you have heard a lot of these discussions before, but basic things like we have books of our 6 Goswamis. We have Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, who wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita, but he also wrote Govinda Lilamrita. And we're not supposed to read that book, some people say. But it's written by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Can we ever read it? Is there ever any time in the future? It depends on how we approach the book. All of those elements of all those different types of books are found in the Bhajan Pranali, in the Gambhira. And we'd like to approach that. Mostly we're going to be reading through Chaitanya Charitamrita. I want to begin the day with reading some verses from Adi Lila chapter 4, which will set a foundation. And we'd like to discuss something about Mahaprabhu's Lila in general. Mahaprabhu's Leela is divided into different divisions by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. It's, if you're a mathematician, it's 24, 6, 6, 12. And he spent 24 years in Navadvip as a householder, then 6 years traveling in South India, then another 6 years in Puri in the Gambhira doing solitary bhajan, but not so solitary. He was meeting with different devotees, his lieutenants. And then the final 12 years, he locked himself up in the Gambhira and he began crying for himself. And this is described in some of the early verses in Adi Lila chapter 13 about Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And we want to understand something about it. It's a very, very esoteric thing when God locks himself up in a room and cries for himself. So I'd like to go now to Adi Lila chapter 4, text 13, and I'm going to show this on our board here. We're going to read through this. Well, in our sessions, we'll be having some reading. We'll be having some discussion, especially at the end. And we want to speak about Mahaprabhu's Gambhira Lila, but we want to also try to understand how it's relevant for all of us. Because just to speak to people and say, well, God locked himself up in a room and was crying for himself, that's pretty far out. You don't hear about that in Catholicism. I don't think that's a pretty amazing thing. What does that mean, and what does it have to do with myself? So it actually has something very important to do for all of us, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming not to be worshipped. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that he's coming as a devotee. And as a devotee, he's coming and doing Acharya Lila. In other words, teaching us how to do bhajan. And so we stress Chaitanya Mahaprabhu so much because without Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we can't approach Radha Krishna. How do we approach Radha Krishna? Through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by understanding the system of bhajan that he's given. So turning to Adi Lila chapter 4, there's a series of verses where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami speaks about the purposes of Krishna and why he came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ataiva Vishnu Takan, Krishna Rasarire, Vishnu Dvari Kore Krishna Asura Sanhari. At that time, Lord Vishnu is present in the body of Lord Krishna, and Krishna kills all the demons through him. And then he says, Anushanga Karma e Asura Marana Jay Lagi Avatara Kahi Shimula Karna. So, therefore, the killing of the demons is a secondary activity. But now I want to speak about the Mula Karna, the main reason for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's incarnation. And then he gives a famous verse. Prema rasa niryasa korite aswadana raga marga bhakti loke korite pracharana. Rashika Shekara Krishna Parama Karuna E Dui Hetu Hoite Ichara Udgama. This is a verse we really want to speak something about today. This is a very, very important foundational verse for us to contemplate if we want to understand what happened in the Gambhira with Mahaprabhu. So, Prabhupada translates this, the Lord's desire to appear was born from two reasons. Edui hetu. Hetu means a cause. His desire to appear was born from two reasons. Number one, prema rasa niryasa korite aswadana. Aswadana means to taste. He wanted to taste the sweet essence of prema rasa, or the mellows of love of God. And secondly, raga marga bhakti loke korite pracharana. He wanted to do prachar. Oftentimes we translate the word prachar in our society. How does Prabhupada do it here? Propagation. We translate prachar as preaching. But prachar in Sanskrit actually has a similar meaning to the word vardhana. We say govardhana. Govardhan is nourishing. And pracharana means to nourish. Pracharana means to spread. to preach is it's something of a translation, but it's a little bit of a difficult translation. So his first purpose is prema rasa niryasa korite asvadana. That's his internal purpose. Raga marga bhakti loke korite pracharana, to come and to share, to spread raga nuga bhakti, raga marga bhakti. That was his external purpose, his secondary purpose. Rasika Shekhara Krishna Parama Karuna. Therefore, Rasika Shekhar Krishna, who's the topmost enjoyer of rasa, he is supremely merciful. Edui heto hoite ichara ugama. He appeared because of these two reasons. And Srila Prabhupada has given a purport here. Let's see here. Radhi Shankar, would you like to read the purport?
Sure, Prabhu. During the period of Lord Krishna's appearance, the killing of asuras or non-believers, such as Kamsa and Jarasandha, was done by Vishnu, who was within the person of Sri Krishna. Such apparent killing by Lord Sri Krishna took place as a matter of course and was an incidental activity for him. But the real purpose of Lord Krishna's appearance was to stage a dramatic performance of his transcendental pastimes at Vrajbhumi, thus exhibiting the highest limit of transcendental mellow in the exchanges of reciprocal love between the living entity and the Supreme Lord. These reciprocal exchanges of mellows are called raga bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord in transcendental rapture. Lord Sri Krishna wants to make known to all the conditioned souls that he is more attracted by raga bhakti than vidhi bhakti, or devotional service under scheduled regulations. It is said in the Vedas, Rasavai Saha, the absolute truth is the reservoir for all kinds of reciprocal exchanges of loving sentiments. He is also causelessly merciful, and he wants to bestow upon us this privilege of raga bhakti. Thus, he appeared by his own internal energy. He was not forced to appear by any extraneous force.
So, in this section, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is explaining that Krishna comes, yada yada hi dharma shablanir bhavati bharata. He comes again and again to kill the demons, pratanaya sadhanam, vinashaya taduskiram, to save the devotees, dharma samstarpanartaya, to establish the principles of religion. But there's something, and generally it's the Vishnu expansions who do that. It's not Krishna himself. But there's something that only Krishna can give. And that's the love of the residents of Vrindavan. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very important. We understand this verse. Prema rasa niryasa korite asvadana raga marga bhakti loki korite pracharana. He came for two purposes. Many devotees, we don't think about his personal purpose. We say that there's two, or one is gona and one is mukhya. Mukhya means primary, and primary is the thing which is done for himself. Of course, both of them are done for himself. But the primary thing in this regard is the first line, prema rasa niryasa korite asvadana. He wants to taste for himself. He wants to know what it's like to be a devotee, what it's like to taste that ecstatic love that Srimati Radharani has for him. And the secondary reason, which is sometimes described as gona means secondary. Secondary is not the best translation perhaps for it, but it's hard to give something a little better. But we would say secondary. When we say secondary, generally we think that, oh, this is something which is not as good. It's not as important as the previous one. But it's secondary, it's gona, because it's not for him. It's something done for us. And generally, this is about as far as most people can understand God, that he's come to help me. Give us, O Lord, our daily bread. And as Prabhupada said in one lecture, what was it?
Love of bread.
Yeah, we have love of God or love of bread. So people think of, because we're very, very selfish, Atmavan Manite Jagat, we see everything in terms of our own selfish desire. So what we want to try to do in this series of talks is speak something about the internal desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the manifestation of Krishna's internal desire to relish being a devotee. And he came for these two purposes. His gona hetu, his secondary purpose, was to distribute Raganuga Bhakti. But his primary purpose for himself was to taste his prema rasa niryasa. So that was something which he did in the Gambhira. And we want to try to understand those pastimes, because if we don't properly understand these pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we can't properly aspire to understand or get what he came. So then Kaviraj Goswami describes the thinking of Krishna. Krishna is thinking to himself, Aishvarya Gyane te Shabha Jagat Amishrita, Aishvarya Shiti Le Premi, Nahi Mora. Another verse which my Guru Maharaj quoted quite often, I quote quite often also, that Krishna was thinking to himself that in general, in the universe, everybody is thinking about my majesty. We were walking past that church, it's over near Govinda's restaurant, the Lutheran church. And I'm looking at it, and it looks like a castle, like a fortress. And then I was thinking, well, that's not very nice. God shouldn't be kept in a fortress like that. But then I thought, if you go to Jagannath Puri, there's also a huge fortress. There's a big wall around the temple and things. And this verse gives some understanding of that, because generally people, they're attracted by the conception of the majesty of God. And my parents, I was raised in a Christian family. When you go to the Catholic Church, you go to a Christian church, it's very majestic. You don't just go in there and have a laughing conversation with someone. It's meant to give people some understanding of the glory of God and how he's created everything. But he says, but that Aishvarya, there's a problem with it. It's Siti Li Prema. Aishvarya Siti Li Prema, it means that it makes love shrink. That love becomes weakened by that sense of majesty. And we hear this in the end of the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where after Krishna shows his universal form to Arjuna, then Arjuna, he becomes frightened and he starts offering prayers, Deva Deva Jagatpate, my dear Lord, you're the God of gods, and this and this. Previously, they were good friends. They were eating on the same plate, they were sleeping together and doing things together. But now when Krishna showed him that universal form, Arjuna became very frightened. So that type of love is not satisfying to Krishna. He says, Nahi Mora Pita. That doesn't make me happy. It's just like Ishan, you may have some friend in school or something. But if someone comes to you and says, don't beat me up, please don't hit me, will you be my friend? They want you to be their friend because you're so big and powerful. You might kind of say, yeah, but he's not going to be a very close friend. Or worse yet, if somebody comes and says, wow, will you be my friend, and can I borrow some money? Or something like that. Then you feel like, really, this guy, what kind of friendship is that? What kind of love is that? So that type of love which has some selfish motivation is not real love. And in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, this is described, Savaipum Samparo Dharma, Yato Bhakti Hoksiji, the Paro Dharma, the real most important dharma for all living entities is Yato Bhakti Hoksiji, to worship the Lord with devotion. And it has three characteristics. It's a hoitaki, a pratiyata, yayatma, supersedity. That it has no personal motivation. It's not that someone comes to you and wants to be your friend because they want money or they want physical protection or something. There's no motivation. They just like you. That's really, really good. And it's a pratiyata. It's not that, oh, I love you now, but 5 years from now, well, I just want to thank you. It was nice, but we can still be friends. Something like that. And your heart's broken. And yayatma supersedity. It's always satisfying to the heart. Whereas mundane relationships, if they don't have these qualities, are not satisfying. And we always hear this question amongst devotees about relationships. And oftentimes devotees, they say that There's no such thing as love in the material world, Prabhu. I hear this quoted quite often. Does that sound very nice, Jennifer? That doesn't sound very nice to me. When people say that to me, devotees say that sometimes, and they're quoting as a letter Prabhupada said like that. I tell them, yes, that's true, but we don't want to live in the material world. We want to live in the spiritual world. And so we're taught that our relationships as devotees, as friends, as husband and wife, as father and son, as children and parents, that those relationships should be based on bhakti. And the more that we keep Krishna in the center of things by hearing and chanting together, having Krishna Katha, doing kirtan, doing service, because Krishna is the ultimate reservoir of love, and Krishna is the object of love, then that love comes into our relationship in a very beautiful kind of way. It doesn't mean there can't be love. Rather, there should be love in all of our relationships. What kind of relationship are we having if there's no love? But that love really should be without any motivation. It's not that I just love you because I want something from you. That's not real love. So Krishna is thinking to himself, and the next verse he goes on, Amare Ishvara Mani Apana Kihina Tara Premi Bas Ami Nahoi Adina. If someone looks at me as a Supreme Lord and thinks of him as a subordinate, I don't become subservient to his love, nor can it control me. In other words, Krishna likes it. As Srila Prabhupada said in one lecture in Mumbai, he said that Krishna likes to be chastised. He likes to be tied up with ropes by Mother Yashoda. He likes to be denied by Radharani and the gopis. Don't you come here. You stay out, you rascal. Krishna gets some pleasure from that because there's some intimacy there. Whereas those relationships with their very formal and folded hands, okay, all right, but we want something sweet. So someone, as long as they're thinking of Krishna as a Supreme Lord and themselves subordinate, he says, I don't become subservient to their love. In other words, I don't become controlled by their Lord, by their love. Amakete je bhakta bhaje je bhave. Tare se bhave bhaji emora swabhave. And Krishna says in the Gita, Yeyatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyam. This verse in Bengali is more or less a reflection of that verse. He says that in whatever transcendental mellow my devotee worships me, I reciprocate with him. That's my natural behavior. That's emora swabhave. That's my swabhav. Swabhav means my personal nature. So Krishna he's a person. He wants people to reciprocate with him in a personal way. Prabhupada gives a nice purport here. Leela Purushottam, would you like to read this purport?
Yes. The Lord, by his inherent nature, reveals himself before his devotees according to their inherent devotional service. The Vrindavan pastimes demonstrated that although generally people worship God with reverence, the Lord is more pleased when a devotee thinks of him as his pet son, personal friend, or most dear fiancé, and renders service unto him with such natural affection. The Lord becomes a subordinate object of love in such transcendental relationships. Such pure love of Godhead is unadulterated by any tinge of superfluous, non-devotional desires, and is not mixed with any sort of fruitive action or empiric philosophical speculation. It is pure and natural love of Godhead, spontaneously aroused in the absolute stage. This devotional service is executed in a favorable atmosphere freed from material affection.
So this is a subject matter that we want to speak on in this series about Mahaprabhu's Bhajan and the Gambhira. Then Kaviraj Goswami gives this verse that I was just citing, Yeyatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham mamavart manavartante manusya partasarva. So however somebody surrenders to me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. So we want to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give, and how do I fit in with that? And is it just something that sometimes we think it's just so high, it's just so incredibly high? I know a lot of devotees who think it's, well, not in this lifetime, Prabhu. It's just not going to happen. When we read about Krishna praying and these ecstasies and things, it's not something that's going to happen in this lifetime, we think. But actually, it's something which involves us right now and which we're very, very much involved in. We may not be tasting the higher ecstasies of bhakti, but nonetheless, we have a role in Mahaprabhu's life, and we want to speak something about that in these sessions. I'm just looking quick here. Ujjwala Rasika, Hare Krishna. Nice to have with us, Ujjwala Rasika. I'm really delighted. So I'm going to read through these verses here of Kaviraj Goswami, and I'd like to say a few words in general about this Gambhira Bhajan, and then we're going to open up for some questions and discussion. So Krishna's thinking again to himself. He says, Mora Putra, Mora Shaka, Mora Pranapati, E Baba Jai, More Kore Shuddha Bhakti. Apanaki Bhodamane, Amare Shamahina, Shei Bhave Hoy Ami Tahara Adina. That if someone cherishes pure love, pure loving devotion to me, and they think, Mora Putra, this is my son. Mora Saka, this is my friend. Mora Pranapati, this is my beloved. E Bhavi Jai Mora Kore Shuddha Bhakti. And then he says, Apanaki Bodhomani Amare Samahina. That the Apanaki Bodhomani, you think you're a big person. Literally this is what it means. Apanaki Bodhomani, you have this mani, this abhiman, this attitude that you're a big person. Apanaki Bodhomani. But Amare Samahina, you and I, we're equal. And this is the way that Krishna's friends, they speak to Krishna. Say Baba Hai Ami Tahara Adina. When someone thinks like this, thinking of me as their son, their friend, their beloved, or someone equal to them, or inferior, then Krishna says, Tahara Adina, I become subordinate, I become less than that person. I'm going to jump past this purport. Go on to the next verse, where he thinks to himself, Maya Bhaktir, He Bhutanam Amritaya Kalpate, Dishayada Sinmat Sneho, this is a Sanskrit verse, excuse me. Maya Bhaktir He Bhutanam Amritataya Kalpate, Dishayad Asinmat Sneho, Bhavatinam Marapanaha. Devotional service rendered to me by the living beings revives your eternal life, O my dear damsels of Braj. Your affection for me is your good fortune, for it is the only means by which you've obtained my fortune. Prabhupada writes in his purport, pure devotional service is represented in the activities of the residents of Braj Bhumi Vrindavan. During a solar eclipse, the Lord came from Dwarka and met the inhabitants of Vrindavan at Samanta Panchaka. The meeting was intensely painful for the damsels of Braj Bhumi because Lord Krishna had apparently left them to reside at Dwarka. But the Lord obligingly acknowledged the pure devotional service of the damsels of Braj by speaking this verse, 10th canto, chapter 82, text 44. These are some of Krishna's words to the gopis at Kurukshetra. That this is your good fortune for me. And it's interesting, this verse, because it brings to mind another verse from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, where Krishna says to the gopis, Napariyeham niravadhyasam yajam swasadu krityam vibudaya sapiva yamabhajam durjaya geha shrinkalai samvichayata pratyatu sadhuna. Krishna told them that I don't know how to repay my debt to you. He said, because your love is so beautiful that you don't want anything for yourself. So pratyatu sadhuna. That your sadhutva, your qualities of being a sadhu and your gopis, let these qualities be your reward. And what does that mean? That means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That Krishna himself had to come as a sadhu. So in this fourth chapter of the Adi Leela, it's very important. It's a very foundational chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita because it gives us a window into the mind of Krishna And the reasons why he came is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then Kaviraj Goswami goes on to speak about what Krishna's thinking. Mata mori bhavi kori nibhandana atahina gyani kori lalana palana. That my mother, she sometimes ties me up. She thinks me as her son. She does lalana and palana. She's nourishing me and protecting me. And she thinks that I'm helpless, that I can't do anything on my own. Sakasuda Saki Kore Skande Arohana Tumi Kumbhada Lok Tumi Sama Ami Sama. And this is the same thing we were just reading, that Krishna's friends, they climb on his shoulders in pure friendship and they say, Tumi Kumbhada Lok, what kind of big man are you? Tumi Ama-san, you and I were equal. Priya Jari Mana Kore Kore Bartsana Vedastuti Hoite Hoye Arise Moraman. If my beloved consort chastises or reproaches me in a sulky mood that steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. And this is something which is spoken quite a bit by our acharyas in Govinda Lilamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions this several times, how Krishna is more attracted by the harsh words of the old ladies of Vrindavan. He's more attracted by their harsh words than he is by the prayers of the personified Vedas. And sometimes those old ladies, they catch Krishna with Srimati Radharani, one of the gopis, and they start chastising him. You black snake, you stay away from my daughter. You see, immediately he starts smiling. There's some kind of sweetness in there. That you're taking away this lady's daughter, doing this thing. Hare Krishna, please mute yourselves. Whereas the prayers of the personified Vedas are full of all kinds of awe and reverence and fear and things. So Krishna gets pleasure when someone chastises him. He wants to taste this thing. So I'm going to find this last verse I want to read today. Very important verse. Ishuddha bhakta lana prayami avatar koribe vivida vida adbhuta bihar nahi jay jay lila prachar sheshi lila kori bhajati mona chamatkar. He says that taking these devotees with me, I'm going to descend. I'm going to come here and perform pastimes in different wonderful ways. That are unknown even in Vaikuntha. And I'll broadcast such pastimes by which even I'm amazed. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he describes in several places that the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are nourished and revealed by the gopis of Braj. And without their taking part in those pastimes, it's not possible for those pastimes to be nourished or to be relished. And so those gopis, they've come in Krishna in Gaura Lila, Lalita and Vishaka, the two most intimate associates of Srimati Radharani, came as Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda. And they're helping Krishna in the Gambhira to understand the nature of Radharani's love. And I'd like to go through different sections of Chaitanya Charitamrita with emphasis on the Ancha Lila and read something about what he's experiencing, which is such a very, very high thing. But the amazing thing about the Gambhira Bhajan pranali, and it is a Bhajan pranali or a system of bhajan. We don't often hear it spoken of like that, but it is a system of bhajan in the sense that here we have a couple persons who are acting like sadhaks or devotees in the form of Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda, and they're doing bhajan. But it's a particular and very amazing bhajan pranali because everybody who does bhajan, they do it for themselves. I remember some friend of mine telling me, I went to Vrindavan and on Ekadasi, I went in the Jamuna River and I chanted one lakh of names, 64 rounds, staying in the Jamuna all day like that. I think, wow, I really got a lot of benefit. And I felt so purified. People do bhajan for their own benefit. But the amazing thing about the Gambhira Bhajan Pranali is that what we're being taught, and we'd like to expand upon this, because it's not just Rupa Damodar and Roy Ramananda, but it's also Rupa and Raghunath Goswami, and it's also all the followers of Rupa Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami who are taking part also in that bhajan. And this bhajan is different because, unlike my friend who took bath in the Jamuna and chanted 1 lakh, this bhajan is not for our benefit. This bhajan is for the benefit of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's done for his pleasure. And in that sense, so many things all of a sudden become legal. Once I went to my Guru Maharaj and I asked him some questions. I said, Guru Maharaj, is it okay if I read this book or that book? I was wanting to have some guidance in what I should study. And he said, yes, you should read, And he was just saying yes to everything. And I thought, well, I might as well go for it. So I asked him, what about reading Govinda Lilamrita? I thought, it was almost like a challenge. I thought, if I say Govinda Lilamrita, then he's going to realize he's just being too much, come on, no. And Guru Maharaj said, yes, why not? And I said, well, Guru Maharaj said, that's very high. And he said, it is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's given in the Gambhira. And those verses are being recited there, along with Chandidas, Vidyapati, Bilamangala Thakur, Jayadev Goswami, and many, many very, very intimate songs, which practically you'll never see Gaudiya Vaishnavas even singing. What is the purpose of those songs? Those songs are for the pleasure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Reciting it for his pleasure because he wants to know, he wants to be able to taste the mood of Srimati Radharani. This is what's going on in the Gambhira, and how he's tasting and what he's tasting. And what's very, very amazing about this whole discussion is our personal role in this discussion. We find in Gaura Lila, in the Adi Lila, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begins his Sankirtan movement in the house of Srivas Thakur. And when he begins that Sankirtan movement, it's behind closed doors, and no one is allowed entrance there. And we hear a story about one brahmachari who was only drinking milk. You know this story? Have you heard? There's one brahmachari who was a very, very elevated person. He didn't eat grains. All he did was drink milk. And he wanted to see the kirtan in Shivasanga. So he approached Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur told him, I'm sorry, but Mahaprabhu has forbidden anyone from taking part in this. It's only for a small, intimate group of persons. And then that brahmachari told him, said, I'm a brahmachari, and I only drink milk. And Srivas Thakur is thinking to himself, I'm a pocha grihastha, I'm a rotten grihastha. I'm a married man, this is a very elevated brahmachari. I eat all kinds of things, I'm always an enjoyer. But this guy, all he drinks is milk. And if I'm going to Mahaprabhu's kirtan, then surely he must be admitted. And so he allowed him entrance into that kirtan. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, dancing in the midst of that kirtan, with which that brahmachari was hiding, Mahaprabhu suddenly stopped and he said, what's going on? He said, there's someone here who's not supposed to be here. And then Srivas Thakur understood, I'm in trouble. He said, well, he's a brahmachari and he only drinks milk. Like this, as though that were the qualification to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. If that were a qualification, then every baby is the most qualified person because babies are all brahmacharis, right? They don't have any problem with girls, and babies only drink milk, right? So they would be the most qualified persons of all, but they can't understand. And it's important for us to look at that. Those early pastimes of Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, he's performing pastimes there with Sachimata, with Vishnupriya, with his wife, and with the devotees, Mukunda and others, and he has some family responsibilities, and he gives all those things up. In the same way that the gopis of Braj had their external family relationships, which they gave up for the pleasure of Krishna. And they ran to Krishna in the dead of night. So Krishna now, he's come as a devotee, and he has to reciprocate the mood of the gopis. So he has to do the same thing. He has to give up his wife, he has to give up his mother, he has to take sannyas. Like the gopis have taken sannyas. He has to give up everything so that he can fully taste their love. So his associates, this last verse is speaking about, are very, very important. And we'll speak more about that. In the Gambhira Leela is not just Srup Damodar and Roy Ramananda. Sometimes you might think of Govinda, maybe you might think of Raghunath Das Goswami. But there's actually many devotees involved with that Gambhira Leela, as we'll hear. And they have different particular roles, different services that they do. And we should hear something about that. And we should hear about how, we want to speak about how Gaura Leela begins behind closed doors in Shiva Sangha, and it ends behind closed doors in the Gambhira. In other words, this is an essential part of Gaura Leela, that there's something very confidential. And that's something that all of us need. Many of us, we come to Krishna consciousness because we like having friends. We go to the temple and it's a lot of fun and it's a religious thing. And most religionists do like that. I grew up in a Christian family, and it was a big social thing every Sunday. Everybody would come together and you wear your nice clothes and you talk to your friends and things, and you're accepted and you have some sense of morality, some sense of religious duty that you all share together. And that's something that is a basis of your friendship. But it's not really so intimate. It's still a little bit formal. And there's some motivation in that. So we need to have relationships with intimate group of devotees, which is partly also why we started this Sangha, which has grown a little bit. Today we have 16, 18 devotees taking part, because we want to be able to give everybody some opportunity to contemplate these things and to create a Sangha. It's a very, very important thing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. And I'd like to take some time now and invite devotees if they'd like to share some thoughts, some realizations or anything. First of all, let me just ask if there's anybody who has to go right away. Ujjwala Rasiga, I think you've already checked out. Ujjwala Rasiga is our doctor friend, and she's working in the hospital. Our other important person is Brinda Sundari. She's temple president in Denver. Brinda Sundari, do you want to share? You're a good person to start with. Maybe you have to go, I don't know. Hi, Krishna.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Is this time okay for you, by the way?
Yeah, it is okay. Yeah.
So any reflections you want to share on these things today?
Well, I'm just appreciating how, that's just like God's private life, how somehow we get, I guess I was thinking, it's like his own private life, but then what you're saying is, how does it relate to us really? And I was sort of sitting with that and appreciating how, like we're a part of it, in the sense of like the Lord's love life basically has to do with us too. So I don't know. I don't have anything concrete. I'm just sort of sitting.
One thing I always appreciate very much about your input, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but I really appreciate is that your perspective, because as I mentioned, Brinda Sundari is a temple president in Denver. And as you know, as a temple president, as a preacher, it's not enough just to organize something. You can have great management, but that's not enough. People are looking for something personal. And really great management ultimately means something personal. And if we go out on the street and we tell people, you should come to our temple, and they say, why? Oh, because it's so big and it's so opulent, it's so amazing. People just kind of, oh yeah, okay, sure, thanks. But if you tell them we have a community and we have something very intimate, and if you tell them, if they can understand, we want to speak something about God, but we want to speak something about God's personal life. like you said, then people become very, very interested in that. And I've noted that many times in our society, we want to treat new people like they're fools and like they're babies and that, which is often insulting to them and drives them away even. But I found even with brand new people, they're excited that here is something so far out that God has a love life. Oh my God, He's my God, and they may not understand it in a very deep way, but even in a theoretical way, we need to convey these things to people, and we need to practically understand how our acharyas meant for us to convey this message to others. So I'm always interested to watch what you're doing, because I see that it's a kind of paradoxical situation where you need to be broad with everybody, but also personal at the same time. And I think you're doing pretty good with that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that not that we in the beginning, it may seem like, oh, I can attain that pretty easily. And that's good that people think like, oh, I can have some experience that you're speaking about. But then, over time, as we start to practice, we actually apply the practice in our life, then we realize, okay, it is attainable and it takes genuine effort. So it's a balance, I think, between encouraging, like, oh, okay, God's personal life, but it's not that we can just enter in. No, it's like we develop ourselves to that point. But yeah, balancing both.
Part of what I want to bring out in this discussion series is an astonishing fact that actually we are part of it in an inconceivable kind of way. When we first come, we think, wow, yeah, this is really far. Maybe I'm going to start crying in the kirtan tomorrow. Maybe I'll start rolling on the ground and having ecstatic symptoms. And then somebody tells us, Prabhu, that's not cool. You don't do that. That's a sahaja thing. And then we think, oh, this is just so high and so very, very far away. But we forget that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to engage in this bhajan. And the amazing thing is that in this bhajan, Rupa Goswami, he says in his Padyavali, Tanme Sadhyan Sadhanam Jivanam Cha, that this bhajan, this is the goal of my life, and it's the means by which I'll attain the goal of my life. So paradoxically, in one sense, when we're engaging in this kind of bhajan, we are there. And Prabhupada speaks about that. He says even the devotees who are preaching and are fully surrendered to that preaching, minor clause, but he says they're fully surrendered, they're already eternal associates of the Lord. By engaging in this bhajan pranali, the Gambhira bhajan pranali that Mahaprabhu was given, we're directly engaging in that even now. But in a way that perhaps we're thinking we're waiting for the tears and rolling on the ground and this or that. But we miss the fact that just be there, just as much as we can right now, just be absorbed in it. And all of a sudden we can realize this is quite an amazing thing. Anything else you want to add?
That's really wonderful. I appreciate what you just said. No, that's it. Thank you so much for making this available.
Thank you, Cindy. I always appreciate your wisdom. Ujjala Rasiga, you are here. I'm sorry, somehow I didn't see you. Would you like to share something with us?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. My pranams to you and to all the devotees here.
It's a quick question. This is not the hospital.
Not the hospital. Weekend, Prabhu. It's a different location of service, different services. And so wonderful.
The hospital.
Prabhu?
Well, you said, for those of you who don't know, Ujjala Reska is a doctor. She works at a local hospital. Whenever we have sessions, usually we see this brick wall behind her. She has to come outside. Now we have something a little more personal and some wood.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. When you posted, I'll just say this, Gambhira bhajan pranali. That is like, that is very good, Prabhu. Regarding the japa, Harinam, we have heard chant and be happy. Yes, that is good. Focus on the mantra. We have heard it all. From there to we hear like, you're actually a part of God's personal life. I mean, from that extreme to, oh, okay, just focus on the sound, to you're actually a part of it. I know it is understandable there is so much more in between, but to be able to hear that, just to hear that, indicates that there is so much hope and depth and sweetness in what is given to us, even for us, the sadhakas, to actually look up to, look forward to. This is why these kathas are so prachar, as you said, nourishing. Nourishing by just placing the facts before. There's no amplification here. This is a fact. Just it's a matter of realization. That's one thing. And when you were speaking about bhajan, Prabhu, you were saying, just be there. As simple as it can sound during the japa, that is, so much is about that. Just be there. And you said it naturally evolves. So all these expressions that we hear in this katha, though they sound simple, they are very pregnant and deep as we move on. So they are present there. It's a matter of realization. So everything that is being said in these kathas here, in the case of Harinama, we hear about Harinama outside, but it is like you hear about Harinam from the street. That is the scenario when you generally hear. And you hear about Harinam as a guest when you enter into your house. That is one more level. But you actually hear about Harinam when you are with the host in a intimate setting with the family. So it is like that. It's all about hearing Harinam. But how close are we getting to the Harinam? I think that is what is very special about this kathas, Prabhu. Yeah, and I really liked when you said, there is no love in this material world. Yes, truly, there's no love. But we don't want to live in material world. I thought it's very nice. Thank you. Krishna-centered relationships. That's what we are looking for, and that's where we want to live. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Your comment reminded me of something I heard today from Srila Prabhupada, that there was one devotee who brought him to Prabhupada, and this devotee had been a devotee for many years, had been chanting and trying to practice, but he kept having problems with marijuana. And he said, Prabhupada, I just couldn't give it up. And I'd live in the temple and I'd stop for some time, but then after a while I just took it up again and I just couldn't give it up. And he was just going on and on like that. And Srila Prabhupada was just quiet and just listening. And finally, after the person left, and everybody's looking, what is Prabhupada going to say? Is he going to reject this person? Is this person a nonsense? And Prabhupada glorified that person. He said, just see how hard he is trying. And that really struck me very deeply in our Bhajan. It's not just what we've achieved, and I've realized my Swarupa, I see Krishna, but what Krishna sees and what Prabhupada sees, how hard we're endeavoring. What is the degree of our sincerity? I'm just reminding me of the comments. Thank you, Ujjwala. I'm really happy to take part.
Very delighted, Prabhu. Very delighted to be here. Thank you.
Radhe Shyam Prabhu, would you like to share something?
Thank you. It's a real loving passages, these. And it's really nice listening to the devotees speak. There's a lot of sweetness to this. I've been thinking, though, we do look at this with love, and we try to get closer to the Lord by having this sort of association with these purports. But how do we sort of react when there are different natures where the love is there? And everybody agrees that they have love for the Lord, his devotees, Prabhupada, but yet it manifests in so many different ways that sometimes it becomes difficult to tolerate one another. Is there sort of that sort of relationship that exists between the Lord or is there a pastime like that where the Lord deals with these sort of different relationships and still shows how to turn it positively?
Well, our motto, Srila Prabhupada often said, is unity and diversity. And we should understand that although we oftentimes think that our strength is in uniformity, but actually our strength is in diversity, not in uniformity. The more different types of people we have that we can appreciate and accommodate, the stronger our society is and the stronger that we are as individuals. In other words, to be able to accommodate and respect different levels of devotion that may be different than ours, different moods in ours, and how and why do we respect it? How can we do that? We can do that because we see it's pleasing to Krishna, it's pleasing to Gurudev. There's so many different devotees, and there are people today who say so many terrible things about all the current gurus, or about these persons who fell down and went away, and this thing and that thing. And maybe even what they're saying is true in some ways, but they're overlooking one fact. And the fact is that Srila Prabhupada accepted them. You may complain all these bad leaders, this and that, and then I feel like saying, well, yeah, all these bad leaders. Who's responsible for all this? I mean, who gave them initiation anyway? Oh, Srila Prabhupada did. And Prabhupada not only gave them initiation, Prabhupada loved them. And so if we want to come closer to Krishna, if we want to come closer to Srila Prabhupada, we have to put aside even sometimes our mundane sense of morality even. Things. Because Prabhupada, there were devotees like Haridas Prabhu, who was a young boy in Mumbai. He became a devotee. He was a street boy, and he was a thief, a pickpocket. And he became a devotee because he started coming to the programs and he wanted to steal Srila Prabhupada's wristwatch. That's why he started coming to the programs. But by getting association with Srila Prabhupada, he became purified and he became a devotee. Now, as far as I know, Haridas Prabhu has always been a saintly person ever since, and you might criticize him, though, because of his past. Or Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one article says that sometimes their devotees, they're still having a hard time giving up their past sinful activities even now. And still we have to see if they're doing nam-bhajan, then we have to forgive them for that and overlook it. Doesn't mean that we have to associate with them intimately, but we should love them and appreciate them. And therefore Srila Prabhupada said that ISKCON is a real United Nations. Because if we can think of things and other devotees in this way, then there can be real unity. Whereas sometimes we may have a temple and there's unity because we all like the same guru, we all like the same kind of prasadam, we have the same kind of building, we're a group because we've all collected money and made this temple. There's that kind of unity. That's something, but I see it's not always so strong and it doesn't always last. But if the unity is based on the fact that they're chanting, and I love them because of that, and because Prabhupada accepted them, doing something for Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's real unity. And that's our real strength. And in that sense, we're better than the United Nations by far. We're always arguing. Is that, I'm not sure if that answered your question or not. Is that something helpful?
Yeah, that's a very good answer. Actually, I appreciate it very much. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I'm really happy to have your Sangha here. I think I met you before when we were in South Africa, did I?
Yes, you have, but I think you might have mistaken me for my brother more than myself. He's on the call as well, Shaman. Yes, but we did meet for sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Prabhuji. So who's
Thank-
older, you or Shyam Mohan?
I am.
You
I
are.
am. Yes.
Yes, then I have to ask your permission. Is it okay if Shyam Mohan says something now?
For sure. Thank you.
And if he says something wrong, you can chastise him because you're the older brother, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, Shyam Mohan, do you want to share?
Hare Krishna. I was actually thinking that maybe I'll be overlooked, but now I have to say a few words. Yes, I might be the younger one, but I think I've got the older brother look with the gray beard. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I really enjoy listening to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I think particularly because it's the Lord Himself, who comes about to experience for Himself first-handed. What is it that my devotees are experiencing? What love are they expressing for me that I myself don't really understand? And this is particularly for Srimati Radharani. And so the Lord's experience during Chaitanya Charitamrita is really His personal experience. And, so often the pastimes speak to that. And it is almost inconceivable sometimes to understand this. We hear about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the symptoms he will experience when he feels the separation from from Krishna and from Radharani. But that to a large extent is on a sentimental basis. I'm speaking for myself here and trying to understand that. It's not an easy one. And so the deeper you go into the Lord's pastime, you tend to have a bit more appreciation for it. But for me, it's really an unpacking experience. And I think every time that I listen to the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I keep experiencing the same thing. For instance, I will think about when he took sannyas and when he was having his hair shaved. I mean, that particular pastime is something that I think about quite often, actually. It's because I've been there when we did parikram, and I would, for that kind of experience, that for me is how I would remember Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in particular, my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Chaitanya Swami, he would relate the pastime in a way that it is really special. Of course, it's all there. It's all in the purports, and it's it's been mentioned many times. But this is my recollection of what creates the attachment or the special relationship with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So anyway, this is from my dull-headed point of view, my little contribution. And as we go on, I'm sure I will have more to say.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking again when you were speaking about how Prabhupada says in several places that Gaura Leela is going on today. Vrindavan Das Thakur says the same thing. And how it is that we can enter into Gaura Leela. We enter into Gaura Leela, our Gurudev takes us by the hand. And he brings us into Gaura Leela by engaging us in the service that he's doing, the service of Kirtan, which is part of Kirtan of our Sampradaya. And so it's such an inconceivable, amazing thing, Mahaprabhu's mission. It's so wonderful. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. I'm really, really happy to have you take part today. I hope we see you every week if we can.
Okay.
And maybe we should go to, let's see, Estonia. Do we have anybody here from Estonia, perhaps? Oh my gosh, look, there's Natalia. Natalia, would you like to share something? Natalia is one of the managers. She's helping. Hare Krishna. Would you share anything today, Natalia?
My pranams. Thank you very much. I was okay. I was surprised by reviving energy of this session. It kind of a feeling that I lost something for a while when I was because when I was in Puri 7 years ago, I got to Gambhira, and I was thinking, how could I serve this place? And only thing which came to my mind is to recite Hamsadutta, Rupa Goswami, just for pleasure. And after that, when every time when I hear someone is speaking that bhajan should be done for pleasure of Mahaprabhu, it's really like enlivening the whole situation, the whole reality. And recently, like last week, I met for first time in my life Hari Parshada Prabhu, and he also everything you heard now. If you got something, it is not for your enjoyment; it is for enjoyment of Mahaprabhu, and it was also something like I don't know, some same like-minded devotees, like same sangha also. And now for some time I felt emptiness. I don't know why, some months, maybe a year, but now I feel like again that true life, like true reality comes back, something like that. And I'm anticipating like a lot when I heard that there were a lot of devotees who participated in this Gambhira Lila. I was thinking, wow, it is. I did not know about it. So many devotees. Yes, thank you very much.
You read Hamsadutta when you went to the Gambhira. Thank you for that. We should think deeply about it. How can we serve? How can we do Dham Seva? And one of the best things you can do for the Dham is just to do kirtan for the pleasure of the Lord. Because reciting Hamsadutta, chanting Hare Krishna, doing kirtan in the Gambhira, it helps to create the atmosphere there. And especially if we do it as a service for the Lord's pleasure. And if everyone goes there and does that, the atmosphere becomes so powerful. But if people go there and they just have lunch there, or if they start eating non-veg there or doing some sinful things, that also affects the atmosphere in a very bad way. So when we go to the Dham, we want to do Dham Seva. We were speaking about this in our last class in Prem Bhakti Chandrika, and the best Dham Seva, we were saying, is Nam Seva. So anyway, thank you. I hope that we can do some Prakram again sometime in Italian. Krishna. And Brajabanita, would you like to share anything?
Not much, but I have few thoughts.
Okay.
One is for a long time I'm wondering why actually in this session you reminded that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his bhajan in very small group in close place, and then I again thought to myself, so why he went out actually? Why he didn't keep it small? It was my, I'm just reflecting what came to my mind during the class. It's one thing. Another thing, it's I'm supposed to be the most elevated person in this sangha, because in my case, I'm still thinking how make a God a part of my own personal life, not how I am in his personal life. So I'm in this level. And this is most important for me today. It's how he is a part of my personal life daily, every moment. And the third thing that I was thinking about during hearing your words is about unity, that you say that when we are chanting together, or when we are do some service, or when we have a similar guru, it's make unity between us. No, I'm not agree with it. I think that unity is something else. Unity is like you most of the time told us already, that it's like-minded persons. More than this, for today, I'm sure, by just watching around and watching life of all kinds of devotees, I see that not all of devotees even human being. That's my own opinion, So I'm not sure that I can have any unity with, and certainly I don't want to. I feel like it's waste of time for me. Like, why should I? Why? Because there is there is nothing similar. I mean, there is no empathy to each other. Empathy, it's not. I feel like it's a few different worlds. We are in different worlds, even if we can have same guru and we have seva, but we are still in different worlds, because our consciousness works in different way. Our choose will be different. Still, we will choose different things. We will choose different decision on same problem. So I don't see so much. I don't put my hope in unities. But in really small communities, there is some hope.
Well, to speak of communities, Krishna in the Gita says, Vidyavanaya Sampani Brahmavihasani Sunichai Visvapakacha Pandita Sarvadarshana, that someone who's Krishna conscious, they actually have unity with the animals.
Yeah. But we cannot. Yeah, but it's but that animals, they're better than a lot of people.
Yes, I was thinking you were going to come to that.
But it's obvious, It's I know animals good. I know animals good, and I know people good, so I can compare.
At the same time, it's not true what you just said. It's not that all animals are good. I've met some dogs, for example, who they actually want to kill you, and they'll literally kill you, a pit bull dog or something, if they can. But at the same time, the dog is not bad. The dog just has some bad qualities or something on the outside of it. I was reading about somebody who was living in Los Angeles, and he had a dog compound, and he was taking many different dogs that had hurt people, sometimes killed people, and he would reform those dogs. Some of them, they just killed them, but he would take those dogs, and it took him some time, and he said that he would get bitten. The dogs would bite him so many times, but he just learned you have to tolerate them. And so that's what Srila Prabhupada has done.
Yes, but the animals, they're simple, and human being no.
Yeah, in some ways, but at the same time too, animals, that vicious quality is not a very simple thing. And sometimes animals, they're also duplicitous. They act like a certain way, and then you get close to them. I had a dog bite me in the face once when I was a young boy. He seemed like a very nice dog, and I was holding him and things, and all of a sudden he just turned and bit me in the face. Animals also sometimes act in a duplicitous way, but we're more forgiving generally with the animals. And in the same way, we should be forgiving with people too. But some animals, maybe I don't want to associate with certain pit bull dogs. I don't want to associate with certain types of people. But we need to have that consciousness. And we saw that during the time of Srila Prabhupada, especially in his presence, that devotees were able to really come together. And there were so many different types of devotees, so many different types of persons. Some of them were very authoritative and very...
But in the same time, there were Yamuna Devi and her Dinatarini in the same way, and there too. And they have a small Bhajan Kutir, small ashram. And it was fine, absolutely fine. And they were in good place. So it's not black and white.
There's two different types of devotees, there's Bhajanandis and Goshtinandis. But our acharyas have described it as better to be a Goshtinandi, to have compassion for others.
Yes, but I'm not sure that you can, it's in your, you can choose. I mean, it's kind of nature. I'm not sure that you can choose.
The real question is, what can we do for them? It's said in Devaki Nandan Das, the singer, he sings that that all the devotees of Mahaprabhu have the ability to deliver a universe. At the same time, Lord Shiva, he says, Mukti Pradata, Sarvesham Vishnu. He says, and only Vishnu can give liberation. Lord Shiva says that. So then how is Devaki Nandan Das saying that all the devotees of Mahaprabhu can do that? They can do that through the holy name. And people really need that. Holy name is very, very powerful. And Mahaprabhu, therefore, he was doing kirtan with so many different people, and they were getting benefit. But then he would go back to the Gambhira. And the first thing he was doing in the Gambhira, we'll hear, there was groups of people coming. There were groups of his intimate devotees, and he was training them to have their own Gambhiras, their own small groups. And then later he locked himself up completely with just 2 or 3 devotees and did his own bhajan. But that's Mahaprabhu's movement, is to give something to everyone. And some persons may not be able to tolerate that, and so they may take it to a life of bhajan. But either way, we should be doing bhajan and helping. Even someone who's doing, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had his guru, Gorkishore Das Babaji, and he was just doing Nirjan bhajan. But his bhajan was being heard all over the world. And the echo of that bhajan was through Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So one way or other, we should help other people. We should try to be caring about them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but because, we also, now I was thinking that to save life of one person, it's already to save the universe, actually.
Yeah, that's good. If we can save even one person, even one animal, one cat or something, that's good. Give them some prasadam or something. I like your Jagannath sticker, by the way. Krishna. Let's see here. How about Karuna? Would you like to share something?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for that wonderful class. When you were mentioning about, in the beginning, Aishwarya Shitila, where you quoted one verse that had the word Aishwarya Shitila, devoid of Aishwarya. But in one of the lectures, I heard one of these devotees saying that, the Vrajavasis, they're also aware of, they also have some Aishwarya. They don't treat Krishna. They don't treat their own kids like they treat Krishna. Krishna is something special, and they're aware of that Krishna's speciality. So in some sense, there is some Aishwarya in Vrindavan. So do Can you comment? It's different from the Aishwarya that's in Vaikuntha, but there is still some Aishwarya in Vrindavan. Would you comment on that?
Examples of that. My grandmother spoke about that in Mathura meets Vrindavan. A simple example we could offer is that one day it said the cowherd boys returned at the end of the day with Krishna, and they went and told Mother Yashoda, it was amazing today. Krishna killed this great demon. And then there was all these guys in the sky, and they were throwing flowers and offering prayers. And there was one guy who was on a bull, and he had no clothes, and he had 5 heads. There was another guy with 4 heads, and he was on a swan. There's another guy with eyes all over his body. He was riding on an elephant. And they were all worshiping Krishna and calling him Bhagavan. And so they're describing the demigods to Mother Yashoda and how they're all worshiping Krishna. And what was Mother Yashoda's reaction? She said, really? My Gopal, Bhagavan, isn't that sweet? So it didn't weaken her love. We see in Kurukshetra, when the gopis met Krishna at Kurukshetra, it didn't weaken their love when they saw all the opulence and things that he had. The same thing in Jagannath Puri. Rather, it intensifies their love. They think, we don't want you here with all these armies and money and wealth and things. We want you in a sweet way. We want you in Vrindavan. My grandma gave an example. I don't know, maybe you visited perhaps, I don't know, maybe in Africa, still in some of the villages that may be similar to India. In some of the small villages, you see people when they're bringing milk. Sometimes they're bringing by bicycle or motorcycle. And they have those containers. And in India, they put straw on top of the milk to keep the milk from coming out. And so when they give you the milk, they take the straw off the top and they pour the milk in your load or whatever. And then you go to boil it. When you go to boil the milk, some little pieces of straw are in the milk. And when it's boiling, sometimes a piece of straw comes to the top and you see it. And other times it goes in and you don't see it. It's moving when it's boiling. And Guru Maharaj said that this is an example Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives, that the residents of Braj, they've heard about Krishna's Aishvarya from Gargamuni and other persons, that Krishna's actually Bhagavan. And sometimes it comes to the top, like the straw in the milk. And other times it's forgotten about. But in any case, it doesn't make their love weak. Rather, when they hear about Krishna's opulence, it makes their love more intense. And we see that in Kurukshetra, where the gopis sung, we don't like you like this. We want you back in Vrindavan. Is that helpful? It's a very important question. Very
Yes,
deep.
thank you. Thank you.
Very much.
I like the boiling milk analogy. I haven't heard that before. So really see it.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Viren Prabhu, do you want to share something?
Sorry, can you hear me? Can you see me, Madhavan Prabhu?
I can hear you and I can see you also. I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, sorry, Prabhu. I joined towards the tail end of the class. I think my timing was a bit off. I thought it was at 7 until I saw the message at about 20 to 7, and I realized it was at 6 o'clock. So I've missed a lot of the class. So right now I'm just appreciating all the comments. Yeah, hopefully next week I'll be on time, Prabhu. But for today, now I'm just appreciating all the comments. And
we're just appreciating your association, Prabhuji. I wish we could see you in person. This is all a little impersonal, this internet stuff. But anyway, it's good to see your smiling face.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And let's see here. Himanti, would you like to share something? Himanti, are you there? Maybe she's her. If you're there, we can't hear you. Your microphone's not working or something. Just maybe you can come on a little bit. Krishna Balaram Prabhu, would you like to share something? Turn your microphone on. Still can't hear you.
Okay.
Now we got
Bhajan, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I just want to say thank you. It was really a nice class, and we missed you for those last 2 weeks or so. It's nice to see you again. I think for me, I think there's just an appreciation that you've invited us into this conversation. And I really feel unworthy in many ways. And I think you try to appease us by saying to us, it's the thin, etc. But I do feel unqualified in many ways to enter into this conversation. But it's an invite from you, so I'm going to take it and I'm going to run with it. Very much like the brahmachari or even Srivas's mother-in-law. But thanks for that, Prabhu. Appreciate it. I think one question that came in mind, at least a thought came in mind as you spoke today, and that was that, you made a point to say that Lord Chaitanya, he gives up everything at some point. And then you also kind of compared it to the pastimes of the gopis giving up everything for Lord Krishna. And I was just thinking, at least the thought went through my head. You can smack me over the head to take it out if you want. But the thought that went through my head was that there was some stimulus there. Krishna played his flute, and it stole the mind of the gopis. And so the gopis went off in that direction, and that all happened. They gave up everything. The thought that I have, or question that I have is, was there stimulus for Lord Chaitanya of an external sort, or what was it? Or was it just these desires in terms of his appearance that you mentioned, the two, the primary and secondary? Thanks, Prabhu.
Yeah, their renunciation is perfect renunciation. It's not, as we often comment, it's not calculated. It's not something, a decision, I think I'm going to become renounced or something. But when they hear the sound of Krishna's flute, they lose control over everything. And sometimes they condemn that flute. They steal the flute because this flute controls us, and the flute makes us do things that we don't want, because the flute just makes them become renounced. And so Krishna comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and experiences the same thing as the gopis. And one of the fascinating things we hear about the Gambhira Leela is Kaviraj Goswami one by one goes through all the different 5 Panchagyan Indriya, or the knowledge acquiring senses, in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, and describing how Mahaprabhu hears the sound of the flute. And by hearing the sound of the flute, it takes away his mind and his consciousness. Sometimes he smells the fragrance of Krishna's body, and that fragrance drives him mad. Sometimes he sees Krishna. In this way, all 5 of his senses, sometimes he touches Krishna in a dream. All 5 of his senses come in contact with Krishna, and he loses his mind, he loses everything, and that's real renunciation. So we're also meant to do that. And in our Sangha, we just come together and we just hear and chant. And we do it for the sake of Srila Prabhupada. We do it because we've been told to by Srila Prabhupada. And if we just do the kirtan, the harikatha in the way that we're told, not that we speculate a lot and start talking about psychiatry or some social issues or adding something or this or that, but we just speak Krishna Katha. We quote verses, hopefully. We speak about the literatures and things. Then it doesn't belong to us. And we're entering into Gaura Leela, and it's such a wonderful service by having that Krishna Katha and taking part in that. We're actually entering into Gaura Leela. Is that helpful, something, Krishna Balan Prabhu?
Yeah, no, thanks, bro. I like that one.
We miss your association, Prabhuji. For those of you who don't know, I'll tell you, Leela Purushottam is worth just buying a ticket right away to South Africa just to go and get darshan with Krishna Balan Prabhu. Maybe get up.
We can buy that ticket for you, Prabhu. Just tell us when.
He's such a wonderful, sweet man.
But not to get my association. I think it's the opposite. It's true.
Very Krishna. But we also have to hear from Krishna Balan Prabhu's better half, who's Nandarani. Any comments or anything from you today, Nandarani? Is Krishna Balan Prabhu being good?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Krishna, so good to see you.
Thank you for today's Sangha. I was appreciating also meeting some new devotees. So thank you for that and hearing their realizations and thoughts. I also was appreciating how every time I see a baby, I'll probably have be thinking about the brahmachari and the milk. So I thought that was nice. It's actually one of the favorite pastimes that I have of Lord Chaitanya, but it's the end part that kind of is more fascinating, maybe I should say, about how the brahmachari actually leaves in sort of a humble mood. And then Lord Chaitanya, my understanding is that he called him back. And I was wondering whether that was how it ended on that pastime.
Yeah, as I recall, someone can correct me, that he was able to enter into that Sangha when he had some proper understanding of things. But he was chastised. And from that, we understand a valuable lesson about renunciation. That renunciation is not what we think it is. Renunciation is not something that I cultivate. And I'm a big brahmachari, I'm a milk drinker, this or that. And then, as we said, the babies are the best brahmacharis and milk drinkers that there are. So he was able to enter in. Okay, that's all that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. The other thing I was just trying to get my mind around, and I thought about, is that these pastimes happened 500 years ago. And it's sort of mind-boggling that, we once went to a tour of some school, and they said to us, they showed us a gate and said, this gate is like 500 years old. And I was just thinking, that's sort of in the region of how long ago Lord Chaitanya was on this planet. And it's really such an amazing point. So as you were talking, I was thinking about that. Thank you, Prabhu.
This is a really, 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 really important point. Because for those of us who are so far away from, what to speak of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we feel so far away from Srila Prabhupada. We didn't get to see him, and we may feel a little hopeless. But we have to have strong faith that Mahaprabhu's movement is going on even now. Ajapiya Chaitanya Shabalila Kori Jakwani Jahari Kari Drishti Adi Kari Vrindavan Das Thakur says, even right now, Gaura Lila is going on. If we enter into this kirtan, and maybe we do it in a sense of obligation, or I'm just some service, and I'm trying. It may not be so deep and ecstatic love or something, but we're doing it out of some obligation. We're doing it out of something. That's still, we're entering in. We're being part of it. But let's try to be very, very fixed in that. It's really, really such a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Nandarani.
Thank you.
Imanti, it looks like we can see you. Can we hear you also? You wrote something. I was going to read it, but maybe you could read it or make some comment. Nice to see you. No, we can't hear you. Your mic's not working yet. Okay. But we get to see you. That's something. I'm going to read your comment, okay? And you can shake your head yes or no or whatever. Hemanti wrote, Hare Krishna Prabhu Pamo August Prabhupada, my apologies for joining late. I wanted to share that my Krishna consciousness has become a bit mechanical, and after joining the Sangha, it's made a nice and positive difference in my Krishna consciousness. Hearing from you how hearing is service, and that we should chant and do bhajan for the Lord's pleasure is something I appreciate. I also was touched by the account of Srila Prabhupada and the devotee struggling with addiction. Just see how hard he's trying. Yeah, that made me want to cry when I think of Prabhupada and how Prabhupada was so appreciative of that devotee and was accepting his service. Just see how hard he's trying. I mean, so amongst us, we might just say, that guy, man, he's completely nonsense. He's smoking, he's doing this and this. But Prabhupada was appreciating. And we should also be like that. It's such an important thing. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hemanti. It's good to see you. Okay, let's see. Who else is here? Just a second. So it's a little harder to organize everything here today. Leela Purushottam, would you like to share something? For those who don't know, Mahaprabhu is from Czech Republic, and he's kind of famous there. He's the biggest troublemaker in the yatra. Very thoughtful.
My pronouns to all the devotees. Yeah, I am very excited about the topic actually, because I've heard you and Srila Gauranga Maharaj many times speaking about Gambhira Leela, but only recently actually I noticed that you started to use this term Gambhira Leela, Gambhira Bhajan pranali, which is like, wow, that sounds like like pranali, like yeah. So I'm really excited about going deep into discovering the depth of the whole concept behind it. And actually maybe I still hope that it will help me with understanding, like one of my topics that I really contemplate for a long time actually, since my association with Indra Prabhu, and that is the relationship of those external reasons for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance and his internal reasons. Like, because I've discussed it with few Vaishnavas, and I've received the different, like, I don't know how to say, like their thoughts on the topic, and it was the range of how to deal with that. It was quite wide actually. Like one of the understandings was that it's like just purely anusangic, just coincidental. The external reasons were just just this was the word used, anusangic, just coincident. And then one Vaishnava, I think I may say his name, Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, he helped me so much, because I always use this term that these two reasons are interdependent, and that usually created little trouble for devotees to relate it to it, especially based on Chaitanya Charitamrita's terminology, what terms are used there. So he helped me so much, because he brought me to the thought, maybe why be so strong about it? Why don't use the term complementary? They're like complementary to each other, which really helped me to harmonize the whole concept. And yeah, that's maybe one thing that will be maybe my personal thread through this whole discussions, as you will develop it, to see if it will help me even with this topic too.
Yeah, that Guru Maharaj gave some very astonishing comments about, indirectly speaking, about the connection between the internal and external reasons, Agona and Mukhya Hetu. And the Gona Hetu, the gopis are doing kirtan for the pleasure of Srimati Radharani and her separation from Krishna. And that's what we do. It's like the same gopis, they're coming as our Guru Janas, and they're engaging us in that same kirtan. And it's just such an amazing opportunity to be able to be part of that kirtan. So yes, there is a strong connection between the two.
That's exactly the line of thought that I'm so strongly pushed to follow. And yeah, I'm so happy that you're saying it like this now, because that's exactly where I always want to see, express, and feel and experience the connection. And also for me, it's also like my question or desire, actually, probably I would say, can I serve by my engagement in the preaching on the order of, or on the desire of my spiritual master, of Srila Prabhupada, of the whole parampara? Can I also, by my engagement in preaching, in sharing Krishna consciousness with others, serve to the Mahaprabhu's internal reason?
Certainly, 100%. But we want to do that consciously. There'll be a lot more benefit if we can do it consciously than to do it unconsciously. And there's many people doing it in an unconscious way, and it's so ecstatic because it's such a very important thing, because Krishna is coming in the mood of Radharani, feeling separation from himself. And so he's wanting devotees to do that kirtan because he gets pleasure from hearing that kirtan.
Yeah.
But when we do that kirtan with that understanding, that's astonishing. But I think it's really important to bear in mind in Gaura Lila the closed door aspect that we spoke a little bit about today. And we have to respect that, because we can't, there's certain people who we shouldn't try to do this with. We can't speak about this with. We can still do kirtan with them at Rath Yatra. Outside, we can still love them and appreciate, but inside the Gambhira, it has to be devotees who are a little more introspective and a little less prone toward debate and argument as a means of solving things, but actually has some appreciation. The common qualification for the devotees, I would suggest, in the Gambhira bhajan pranali, is that they have faith in bhajan as a means as a solution. Whereas the devotees outside, they're doing bhajan, they're doing kirtan because it's fun, because it's going to help them in this way or that, but they don't have the same view of it. And they're also taking shelter to some extent or another of other aspects, even management and whatever. And we see that in Gaura Lila also, without getting into it anymore now.
Yeah, that was, yeah, it's wonderful. And there were like few other thoughts on that line that I wanted maybe to ask you to share your thoughts on. It's like, yeah, exactly. Like even the behind the closed doors, which one could interpret that was regarding the Mahaprabhu's internal reasons, like his personal nourishment. Still, the form of it, of that bhajan, was predominantly Nam Bhajan, Harinam. It was like chanting Maha Mantra. But the same means he was using for fulfilling the external reason. When he was preaching, he was going out and singing Maha Mantra.
So what's the difference between the two? The difference basically is just a conception.
Yeah.
People outside didn't really have much conception, just, oh, Krishna's God, we should worship Krishna, this is ecstatic, we should love Krishna. But in the Gambhira, there's a very, very deep conception. And there are devotees there in the Gambhira, they're doing it for the pleasure of Mahaprabhu, for him to understand his Radharani's love. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep moving. See, Chaitanya Prabhu, do you want to share anything? There he is.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, we still can't hear you, Prabhu. You're muted. Nope, muted. Hare Krishna. Not sure what happened to my mic. I can hear something now.
Can you hear something now?
Yeah, we got you.
There we go. Sorry about that, devotees. I don't know what happened. So the main consideration that I just was thinking about from our earlier days was just around, we're attracted to great things and we see God as something great. And when you're reading all the verses going down and explaining how the mindset of the Lord is as far as wanting to surrender to his devotees. And I used to remember when you're reading this very much in my early days to think how amazing it is that he would be able to, that he wants to surrender and give control to his devotees. So I just found that very sweet. And thank you very much for all. It was such great interactions today, Prabhu. Really loved it.
Thank you very much, Satan. It looks like your load shedding just started, did it?
Yeah, I was about to say that.
There's a connection between South Africa and India. Hare Krishna. Okay, well, so nice to see everybody and have everybody present here. We're going to Krishna Balaram Prabhu and Viran and Hemanti, Nandarani. If you have time, you're interested, on Wednesday, 2 hours earlier, 4 o'clock your time in South Africa. No, it's the same time right now. It's your time right now. There is just a little after 8 o'clock, I think, in South Africa.
Yeah. It's 4 minutes past 8.
They have the same time as us. It'll be starting at 4 o'clock your time, and that's going to be on Prema Bhakti Chandrika, and it'll be the same link. I'll paste it in our little WhatsApp group. So if you guys want to take part in that, it'll be with these great heroes, Leela Purushottam Prabhu, and maybe even Ujjwala Rasigar.
Is this on Wednesday, Prabhu?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you all very much. And next week, I think I'll probably be in Budapest, but we'll try to be staying at somebody's house. But I think we'll still be able to go ahead and do something. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha.